The hand that touched Emma's arm was warm. The voice that followed was not. Don't turn around. Low, Korean accent. Controlled the way a knife is controlled, by someone who knows exactly what it can do. Smile. Look at me like we're having a pleasant conversation. And listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Emma Brooks had not survived building a $1 million interior design empire from a single-bedroom apartment in Atlanta by panicking when strange men whispered instructions at her. She picked up her champagne, smiled like she was being told something delightful. Talk, she said. Your boyfriend, the man said, is not networking. He is in the private lounge on the floor below us with his tongue down my wife's throat. Has been for the last 22 minutes. The champagne glass did not shake in Emma's hand. She was proud of that later. Of all the things she would remember about this night, and she would remember everything, every single second of it for the rest of her life. She was proudest of that. The glass did not shake. Which lounge? She said. East wing. Glass door. Third corridor left of the elevator bank. A pause. I have photographs if you require evidence. I don't. Emma took a slow sip of her champagne. Set the glass down on the tray of a passing server. Then she turned around, and she saw Kim Tae-yoon for the first time. He was, and Emma had met beautiful men, had designed spaces for beautiful men, had been pursued by beautiful men on 4 different continents. Something else entirely. Not beautiful. Precise. Like someone had taken the concept of a man and refined it down to only the essential elements. Tall. Dark suit that cost what most people made in 3 months. A jaw you could use as a straight edge. And eyes dark, deep, and currently fixed on her face with an attention so complete it felt almost aggressive. He looked like a man who had not been surprised by anything in a very long time. He looked like tonight had surprised him. Kim Tae-yoon, Emma said, because she knew who he was. Everyone in this room knew who he was. CEO of KT Development Group. 34 billion in assets. You redesigned the Gangnam waterfront. Something flickered in those dark eyes. You know my work. I'm Emma Brooks. She tilted her head. Brooks Design Group. I did the interiors for the Aria Hotel and the Latte Sky residences. This time what flickered in his eyes was different. Sharper. That was you. That was me. They stared at each other. 2 powerful people who had just been handed the same disaster and were both still standing, which said something about both of them. How long have you known? Emma asked. About her and specifically him? Tonight. His jaw tightened, the only crack in the composure. About something being wrong? He paused. 8 months. Emma breathed slowly through her nose. He told me last month he wanted to talk about the future. She told me last month she'd never been happier. A beat of pure, shared, exquisite outrage. I hate them, Emma said pleasantly. As do I, Tae-yoon agreed. Good. Emma smoothed the front of her gold gown. Straightened. When Emma Brooks stood at her full height in 5-inch heels with her silk press flowing and her armor fully on, she was, as her grandmother Ruth always said, a lot of woman in the best possible way. Then let's give them something to be sorry about. Tae-yoon looked at her for one long, considering moment. What exactly, he said. Are you proposing? Emma smiled. It was not a small smile. Walk with me. She did not take his arm. She walked beside him with her head high and her heels clicking against the marble floor of the Meridian Grand's ballroom like punctuation. And Tae-yoon moved beside her with the unhurried, absolute confidence of a man who owned 17 buildings in this city and knew it. The effect was immediate. Heads turned. This was the kind of room where people tracked power the way animals tracked weather, instinctively, continuously, without needing to think about it. And whatever was radiating off the 2 of them as they crossed that ballroom together was a Category 5 storm. Don't look around, Emma said under her breath. Don't look for them. Let them find us. You do this often? Tae-yoon murmured. Walk into a room like you own it? I usually do own it. Or at least designed it. She glanced up at him. The chandelier in this ballroom is mine, actually. He looked up, back down at her. Something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile, but the exact shape of where a smile lived. Of course it is. 22 hand-blown glass components. 8 months of work. She smiled serenely at a passing acquaintance. I have very good taste. Yes, Tae-yoon said, and the way he said it, looking at her, not the chandelier, made Emma's stomach do something she immediately told it to stop doing. Down, she muttered. Excuse me? Nothing. She grabbed 2 fresh champagne glasses from a server. Handed him one. Drink. Look like you're enjoying yourself. I find, he said, accepting the glass, that I am not entirely acting. Emma cut her eyes at him. He sipped his champagne with a composure that was genuinely infuriating. You're very calm for a man who just found out his wife is. I am furious, he said simply. I am simply furious in Korean. It looks different. Emma stared at him for half a second, and then she laughed. Real, genuine, surprised out of her. The laugh her grandfather always said could make strangers feel like family. She caught it quickly, pressed her lips together. Don't do that, she said. Do what? Be funny. We're supposed to be suffering. We are suffering, he said with absolute seriousness. I am simply also finding you fascinating, which is making the suffering more interesting than it would otherwise be. Emma looked at him. Kim Tae-yoon. Emma Brooks. If you keep saying things like that, you'll what? She opened her mouth, closed it, narrowed her eyes. He held her gaze steadily, and that almost smile was there again at the corner of his mouth, and Emma thought, this man is going to be a problem. She turned away from him and scanned the room and found Derek immediately. Across the ballroom, champagne in hand, just emerged from the corridor. He hadn't seen her yet. Beside him, 2 steps behind, the silver dress. His wife, Soo-yeon Kim, who was just as beautiful as the photographs Emma had seen of her, and who was currently repositioning her chignon with one hand in the way women do when they need 30 seconds to reassemble themselves. Emma watched them, felt the full, clean, sharp slice of it. 2 years. She had given this man 2 years of Sundays and compromises and adjusting herself and believing him when he said she was everything. 2 years. Emma. Tae-yoon's voice, close to her ear. She realized she had gone very still. I see them, she said. I know. He moved slightly, not blocking her view, just close, like a wall that existed not to contain her but to remind her she had backup. What do you want to do? And that was the thing that cracked something open in Emma's chest. Not what should we do? Not here's the plan. What do you want to do? Derek had not asked her what she wanted in longer than she could remember. I want, Emma said slowly, to enjoy the rest of this party, and I want them to have to watch me do it. Tae-yoon was quiet for a moment. Then we enjoy the party, he said. He extended his hand, not a grab, not an assumption. An offering, his palm up, waiting. Shall we? Emma looked at his hand. At him. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, and they walked forward together. And Emma Brooks held her head up and thought about what her grandfather James used to say every time she scraped her knees on that driveway. Get up, Emmy. Show the ground what you're made of. Derek saw them 6 minutes later. Emma watched it happen across the ballroom. Watched the moment his eyes found her. Moved to Tae-yoon. Registered the hand, and performed the fastest emotional calculation of his life. She saw the confusion, the surprise, the flash of something that was almost jealousy, which was almost funny given what he had just been doing downstairs. She smiled at him across the room, warm and direct. He started toward her. He's coming, Emma said. I know. Tae-yoon did not look in Derek's direction. He was looking at Emma. Do you want him to reach you? Not yet. She turned to Tae-yoon, angling her body toward him, closing off the approach, and looked up at him with the focused interest of a woman who is very happy with her current conversation. Tell me something. Anything. Make it look good. Tae-yoon did not miss a beat. The chandelier, your chandelier, casts light at an angle that has been making your skin look extraordinary all evening. I noticed it the moment I saw you. I thought the designer had done it deliberately. Emma blinked. Is it working? He asked, perfectly innocent. She became aware that she was smiling, properly smiling. You're doing it again. Being funny? Being effective. She glanced past his shoulder. He stopped. He's watching us. Tae-yoon reached out and very deliberately, very lightly, tucked one loose strand of her silk pressed back from her face. The touch lasted less than 2 seconds and rearranged Emma's entire nervous system. Good, he said quietly. Let him watch. Emma held his gaze. Up close his eyes were extraordinary, Not just dark but deep, the kind you could fall into without noticing until you were already too far down. You, she said softly, are very good at this. I am very good at most things, he said. I am not being arrogant. I am simply precise about my capabilities. Emma laughed again. She couldn't help it. Oh my God. I did it again. You did it again. That almost smile went 3% wider. On his face, 3% was equivalent to anyone else's full grin. And Emma decided it was one of the most attractive things she had ever witnessed. Stop it, she told herself. Focus. She turned at precisely the right moment to find Soo-yeon materializing at Tae-yoon's shoulder. Up close, Soo-yeon Kim was the kind of woman who made other women immediately take inventory of themselves. Flawless, silver dress, that precise engineered beauty, and eyes that moved over Emma with the speed and thoroughness of a scanner. Tae-yoon, she said, sweet, controlled. I've been looking for you. Have you? Not a question. 2 words so flat they could have been a surface you laid things on. Soo-yeon's eyes moved to Emma. The warm smile appeared. Practiced and perfect. I don't think we've met. I'm Soo-yeon. His wife. A tiny emphasis. His wife. Emma Brooks. Emma matched her smile what for what. Brooks Design Group. Recognition crossed Soo-yeon's face. Quickly concealed. Oh, you designed the Aria Hotel interiors. I love that space. Thank you. It's one of my favorites. Emma tilted her head. You have wonderful taste. They smiled at each other the way women smile at each other when they are having a completely different conversation than the one being spoken. Tae-yoon, Soo-yeon said, turning back to her husband. Could we? Soo-yeon. His voice was gentle. It was also a door closing. Not tonight. Something moved across Soo-yeon's perfect face. Something cracking underneath. She looked at Emma. At Tae-yoon. At Emma again. At the way he was standing next to this woman, not touching her, he didn't need to, and the way that particular kind of attention, his attention, which Soo-yeon had clearly never fully had and had apparently gone looking for elsewhere, was now aimed entirely somewhere else. Of course, she said. Graceful and empty. She glided back into the crowd. Emma watched her go. Felt something complicated, not victory, not pity. Something more honest than both. She's going to find Derek, Emma said. Yes. Tae-yoon was quiet for a moment. Let her. Emma found Derek at 10:30 p.m. on the terrace. She had been ready for 10 minutes. She had stood at the window watching the Seoul skyline. This city she had chosen. This city she had built a life in. This city that had never asked her to be smaller. And she had breathed. And she had thought about her grandmother Ruth sitting at the kitchen table in Atlanta saying, Emmy, you are never too good to cry and you are never too broken to stand back up. Do both. In whatever order you need. She had cried for approximately 90 seconds in the powder room. Alone. For the last time over this. Then she had stood back up. Derek turned when he heard the terrace door. He had clearly been waiting. His face was doing the thing, the warm, reasonable, let me explain face that had worked on her for 2 years. Not tonight. Emma, listen. How long? She said. He blinked. The face reset. What? Derek. Emma stopped 5 feet from him. The Seoul night was cold and brilliant behind her. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to cry. I am here to ask you one question, and I need you to respect me enough to answer it honestly. She looked at him steadily. How long? He looked at her for a long moment, and then his shoulders dropped. The face gave up the performance. 8 months, he said. 8 months. 2/3 of the last year. He had kissed her good morning for 8 months of mornings while he was 8 months deep into this. He had told her he loved her. He had talked about their future. He had held her hand at her company's anniversary event last spring and smiled at her in front of everyone she worked with while he was already 8 months into something else. Emma was very, very still. I have given you 2 years, she said. Quiet, clear, every word chosen and placed. I have cooked in your kitchen and slept in your bed and showed up at your events and rearranged my schedule around yours and convinced myself that was what love required. She took 1 step forward. I am a woman who built something from nothing. I started with $40,000 in student debt and a vision, and I made something that people fly to Seoul to see. I am exceptional, Derek. Not because I need you to tell me so. I know it in my bones, but because I need you to understand what you had. Her voice did not waver. She was her grandfather's granddaughter. She did not waver. And what you threw away for 8 months of borrowed time in hotel corridors. Derek opened his mouth. I'm not finished. She said it gently, which was somehow worse than if she'd said it hard. You do not get to speak right now. This is the last thing I will ever say to you, and I have earned the right to finish it. She let the silence sit for one breath. I forgive you. Not for you, for me. Because my grandmother always said unforgiveness is a weight you carry alone, and I am done carrying weight that isn't mine. She pulled the beautiful pearl bracelet he'd given her for her birthday from her wrist. Set it on the terrace railing between them. We're done. I'll have my things by Sunday. Don't call me. She turned and walked away. Behind her, she heard Derek say her name. She did not stop. She walked back through the terrace door, across the gleaming ballroom floor, and she held her head up the entire way, and when she reached the quiet corridor and finally let out the breath she'd been holding, Taeyoon was there, standing exactly where she needed someone to be, a glass of water in his hand, which he held out to her without a word. She took it, drank, pressed the cold glass to her cheek for 1 second. Okay? He asked. I will be, she said. I know. He said it simply, like a fact he'd already verified. You look like the kind of woman who always will be. Emma looked at him. This strange, precise, devastating man who had appeared in her worst moment and somehow kept being exactly the right thing. Your turn, she said. Soo-yeon. Already done. He straightened his cufflinks. I called my attorney while you were on the terrace. The conversation with Soo-yeon was... He considered the word brief. Brief how? She cried. I handed her a handkerchief. I told her I was not angry, only finished. He looked at his own hands for a moment. I think she was surprised. I don't believe she thought I would actually... He stopped. End it, Emma said. Have the feelings about it that I apparently do. He looked up. I had convinced myself I did not feel much anymore. About the marriage. About any of it. His eyes found hers. Tonight has been corrective in multiple ways. Emma stared at him. Kim Taeyoon, she said. Emma Brooks. Let's go somewhere and get real food. Not this. She gestured at a passing server's tray of artfully stacked microportions. Whatever this is, actual food. For the first time that night, the almost smile completed itself. Full, real, transformative, like watching a building light up floor by floor. I know exactly where to go, he said. He took her to a 24-hour Korean barbecue place in Mapo that had no ambience, plastic chairs, a menu with pictures, and the most extraordinary galbi Emma had ever put in her mouth. She was still in her gold gown. He was still in his $30,000 suit. They were absolutely the most overdressed people in the building, and neither of them cared remotely. This, Emma said around a mouthful of meat that was doing something illegal with her taste buds, is the best thing I've eaten in 6 months. I come here after difficult negotiations, Taeyoon said. He was eating with a focus and efficiency that made Emma smile. Even here, even now, even in this plastic chair, the man was precise. There is something clarifying about very good food eaten without pretense. Your company negotiates at 11 p.m.? My company negotiates whenever the other company makes it necessary. He refilled her water glass. What about you? How did you end up in Seoul specifically? Emma leaned her elbows on the table. Something she never did at events, because Derek always corrected it. She realized with a small jolt and thought about it. I came for a project 6 years ago. The Arya Commission. I was supposed to stay 4 months. She shrugged. I'm still here. Seoul kept you. Seoul let me be big, she said simply. Back home. I love Atlanta. I love my family. I will love those places until I die. But here I could build without apologizing for the scale of it. Nobody here told me I was doing too much. She picked up another piece of meat. I've never done too much. I've done exactly the right amount. It just required a city that could handle it. Taeyoon watched her as she said this. You do know, he said, that you talk about your work the way most people talk about people they love. Emma pointed her chopstick at him. Don't psychoanalyze me at a barbecue restaurant. I'm not psychoanalyzing you. I'm saying it as a compliment. He leaned forward slightly. I understand it completely. I feel the same way about a building when it's right. When every element is exactly what it should be and nothing is fighting itself. He paused. I think perhaps that's what neither of us found in our relationships. Things that didn't fight themselves. Emma went quiet. My grandmother Ruth, she said slowly, says that the right love shouldn't feel like a wrestling match. She says it should feel like a door opening into a room that was always yours. She looked at him. I thought about that a lot with Derek. How I always felt like I was asking permission to take up space. You should never have to ask permission to take up space, Tae-yoon said. He said it with the quiet certainty of a man stating something non-negotiable, like a structural requirement, like load-bearing truth. Emma looked at him across the plastic table with its little grill in the center. In this bright, honest, unpretentious place. Both of them still in their gala clothes, smoke in the air and Auntie's red sauce on her fingers, and she thought, I like you. I think I have been liking you since approximately the second sentence you ever said to me. She did not say this. She said, my grandfather James would like you. Tae-yoon looked surprised. Genuinely surprised, which was apparently rare for him. Why? Because you mean what you say. Emma smiled. He always told me, Emmy, find people who mean what they say. They're rarer than gold and worth more. She tilted her head. You meant every word tonight. I could tell. He was quiet for a moment. My mother, he said. She used to say that the most dangerous thing a person can do is learn to stop meaning their words. She said it starts small. A kindness you say but don't feel, a promise you make but don't intend to keep, and it grows until you don't recognize yourself anymore. He looked at his hands. I think that is what happened to my marriage. Not with cruelty, just with distance. We stopped meaning things to each other and kept saying them anyway. I know that feeling, Emma said softly. I thought you might. They sat with that for a moment. The restaurant noise around them. Other tables, sizzling grills, the TV on the wall, was somehow exactly right. Ordinary life carrying on, indifferent to heartbreak the way life always was, and also somehow comforting in exactly that indifference. I should go home, Emma said eventually. It's almost 1. I'll drive you. Tae-yoon. I'll drive you, he said again. Not insistent. Not controlling. Just certain. The way he was certain about things that mattered. It's late. Let me drive you. Emma looked at him. Then she nodded. Okay. He paid before she could even reach for her bag. Not making a production of it, just settling it quietly, the way people do when generosity is a language they speak without thinking. In the car, black, quiet, a driver who clearly had the excellent quality of invisibility. Sol moved past the windows at 1 in the morning, and they sat in comfortable silence, and Emma thought about what her grandmother had said once on the phone, a year into the Derek situation. Emmy, when a man makes you feel smaller, that's not love. That's ownership. Love makes you feel like the fullest version of yourself. Remember the difference. She looked at Tae-yoon. He was looking at the city. His profile in the passing lights was extraordinary. Clean lines, that jaw, the quiet intensity he carried like a signature. As if he felt her looking, he turned. Their eyes met. He didn't look away. She didn't look away. The car moved through the Seoul night and something passed between them in that look. Wordless and enormous and mutual. The recognition of two people finding each other at the exact right-wrong moment. I would like to see you again, he said. Not a meeting. Not a professional reason. He was direct the way she had already come to understand he was always direct. I would like to see you because tonight you made a genuinely terrible evening into something I will think about for a very long time. Emma's chest went warm. Call me, she said. Don't text. Call. I'll call, he said. Thursday, 7 p.m. I keep very precise schedules. I know, she said. I'll answer. He called on Thursday. He called at exactly 7 p.m. and Emma answered on the second ring, sitting in her home office in her favorite silk robe, and they talked for 3 hours and 40 minutes, and at no point did Emma feel like she was anything other than completely, entirely, unapologetically herself. He called the following Thursday too, and the one after that, and somewhere in those Thursday calls, in the laughter over his complete inability to be imprecise about anything, in his voice going quiet when she talked about her grandparents, in the way he listened like listening was a skill he had trained for, Emma Brooks began to understand that her grandmother had been right all along. The right love felt like a door opening, like a room that was always yours. 6 weeks after the gala, he took her shopping. Not the way Derek had taken her shopping. Dragging her to places that reflected his taste. Handing things to her like she should be grateful, steering her away from things he found too bold. This was different from the first breath. He picked her up at noon on a Saturday, handed her coffee, her exact order, which he had asked her once and apparently filed in the same precise mental database where he kept construction tolerances and quarterly projections, and told the driver to take them to Cheongdam-dong. "You're taking me to the most expensive shopping street in Seoul," Emma said. "Yes. Why?" "Because," he said, "the Han Group Charity Gala is in 3 weeks. You will be the most important woman in that room. Your firm just landed the new National Arts Center commission, which everyone will know about, which means every eye will be on you. And I want," he looked at her directly, "every person in that room who has ever underestimated you to understand their mistake, completely, without ambiguity." Emma stared at him. "I have my own clothes," she said. "You have excellent clothes," he agreed. "I want to buy you something else." Tae-yoon. Emma. Patient. Immovable. The voice he used when something was decided and he was simply waiting for the world to catch up. "Let me do this. Not because you need it. Because I want to. Because—" He paused and she saw it. The tiniest window in the composure. "Because I see you. And I want other people to see what I see." Emma was quiet for a long moment. Her grandmother's voice. "Emmy, let people love you right when they try. Don't make it hard for someone to do a good thing." "One dress," Emma said. His mouth curved. "We'll see." It was not one dress. But Emma was too busy enjoying herself to object, which she suspected was exactly what he had calculated. The atelier was private, not open to regular customers. You needed a name or an appointment, and Kim Tae-yoon needed neither. The lead stylist, a tiny woman named Min-ji who had the energy of someone who ran on pure aesthetic passion, recognized him immediately and began pulling pieces before they'd even sat down. Tae-yoon sat in the low chair like he had been born to sit in it. Ankle crossed over knee, wholly relaxed, and he watched Emma try things on with an attention that was so specific, so focused, so entirely different from how she had been looked at before, that it took her approximately 20 minutes to stop being self-conscious about it. The third dress was black. Column silhouette. One shoulder. It fit like it had been made for her body specifically. Emma stepped out and Tae-yoon looked up from his phone, which he had been on for exactly the amount of time she'd been in the dressing room, no more, and he went still. Not the polite, social, "oh that's nice" still. The involuntary kind. The kind that happens before a person has made a decision about their reaction. "Walk," he said. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" Across the room and back. He gestured. "Walk. I am Nata. Please," added like a door held open, quiet and sincere. Emma walked, across the room, back. She was wearing her heels from when she'd arrived, and the combination of them and this dress and 12 years of walking into rooms like she owned them produced, apparently, an effect. Because when she turned back to face him, Tae-yoon said nothing for 4 full seconds. "That one," he said finally. "You said that about the last one. That one was also right. This one is—" He stopped, chose his word with visible care. "Different." "Different how?" He stood from the chair, walked toward her, stopping directly in front of her. Close enough that she was aware of the cedar of his cologne, the warmth of him, the full focused intensity of his attention at this distance. "The last dress was beautiful," he said quietly. "This dress makes you look like what you are." His eyes met hers. Untouchable. Emma stopped breathing for approximately 1 second. "Don't say things like that," she said. "Why?" "Because I don't have anywhere to put them." "You don't have to put them anywhere." He tilted his head, examining her face with that careful precision. "I'm simply being accurate." He turned back to Min-ji. "This one, and the burgundy from earlier. And the shoes. The strappy ones, not the block heel. She doesn't need the extra height. She needs nothing." He glanced back at Emma, who was standing there trying to recover her composure. "But we'll take them anyway." "You said one dress," Emma said. "I said we'd see." He looked at Min-ji. "Is the jewelry case still in the back?" "Oh no," Emma said. "Absolutely not." "Emma." "Tae-yoon. The gala is a significant event for your company. Every detail matters. I design buildings and I can tell you with professional certainty that the details are not decorative, they are structural. They hold everything else up." He looked at her steadily. "Let me take care of the details." Emma stared at him. at this quietly impossible man who compared earrings to structural elements and meant it absolutely sincerely. "One piece of jewelry," she said. He smiled, small, satisfied, like someone who has just secured a contract on more favorable terms than expected. "Of course," he said, "it was not one piece of jewelry. But Emma was, she could admit privately, having a wonderful time. The jewelry was a necklace and matching earrings. Rose gold, delicate, with stones that caught light like they were generating it themselves rather than reflecting it. Minji brought them out in their case and laid them before Emma like offerings. "May I?" Taeyun said. Emma looked at the necklace. At him. "You want to? If you'll allow it." She turned, her back to him, and she felt his hands, careful, deliberate, unhurried, lift the necklace and bring it around to her throat, and the clasp required him to step close, and she was aware of his presence behind her the way you are aware of heat from a fireplace, warmth without touching. His fingers brushed the back of her neck. She watched him in the mirror, watched his concentration, absolute and complete, the same he gave to buildings and business, and every single thing he determined was worth his full attention. "There," he said quietly. He did not step back immediately. She watched his eyes in the mirror travel from the necklace to her face. Something moved in them. Something she was beginning to be able to read, that specific softening beneath the precision. "Your grandmother was right," he said quietly to her reflection. "About what? You deserve to be seen like this." His eyes held hers in the mirror. Every day, without having to earn it. Emma's throat went tight. She turned around. He was right there, close enough that she had to look up to find his eyes. "Kim Taeyun," she said softly, "you are going to make me ruin my mascara in a designer atelier, and I will never forgive you." The smile came. Full, real, completely his, and she felt it in her chest like the first warm day after a long winter. "Unacceptable," he said. "You look perfect. We'll hold off the feelings until we're in the car." Emma laughed, pressed her hand flat against his chest for 1 second. Just one, just the warmth of connection, and stepped back. "The earrings," she said. "The earrings," he agreed. He put the earrings on with the same focused care as the necklace, his fingers gentle at her jaw, tilting it slightly, moving a braid aside, and Emma stood very still and let herself be cared for. Really let it in, the way she hadn't let things in for a long time, and thought about what her grandfather James always said. The right person doesn't love you despite what makes you extraordinary. They love you because of it. The night of the Han Group charity gala, Taeyun arrived at Emma's apartment door at 7. She opened it in the black dress, the rose gold jewelry, her silk press falling in soft waves over one shoulder, her makeup so flawless it looked like her face had simply decided tonight to be its most definitive version. Taeyun stood in her doorway. He didn't say anything for a long moment. He simply looked at her, the way he looked at things he considered important, with total attention and nothing held back. "Well," Emma said. "I'd like to apologize," he said. She blinked. "For what?" "For thinking the dress was enough." His eyes moved over her slowly, carefully, the way he read architectural plans, finding the meaning in every detail. "I should have bought the whole collection." Emma felt warmth rush from her chest to her face. "Stop. You stopped me from buying the whole collection. Taeyun, I was right about the necklace." He stepped forward, not waiting for an invitation, and very carefully, as if she were something that required care, adjusted the fall of the necklace so it lay exactly where it should. His hands at her collarbone. Her entire body registered it. "And I was right about you. About me." Her voice came out slightly quieter than she intended. "That every person in that room tonight is going to understand exactly what they're looking at." He stepped back, met her eyes. "Are you ready?" Emma Brooks picked up her clutch, pressed her lips together, straightened. "Let's go," she said. They walked into the gala like a weather system, not because of who he was, though everyone knew who he was, because of the combination. Because of the way he walked beside her like she was the destination and everything else was just geography. Because of the way she held herself like a woman who had built her own magnificent life and knew exactly what it was worth. Heads turned. And then Emma saw Derek. He was near the entrance with a group of business colleagues, champagne in hand, and he turned at the shift in the room's attention the way people turn toward noise, and he found Emma. She watched his face do it. Watched the journey, the recognition, then the full register, the dress, the jewelry, the specific quality of incandescent that she had apparently decided to be tonight, and Taeyun beside her, and the way Taeyun was looking at her, and something moved through Derek's expression that she could read clearly even across the room. What did I do? Emma looked at him for exactly 3 seconds. Then she looked away, back to Taeyun, who was watching her face. Good, he said quietly. Very, she said. He leaned close to her ear, his voice low and warm and for her only. Good. Let him see what he lost. Emma lifted her chin, and they walked forward into the room. Later, much later, at 2 a.m. on Taeyun's penthouse terrace with Seoul spread below them like a love letter written in light, both of them having long since abandoned the gala in favor of talking until time became irrelevant. Emma said, My grandmother called me today. What did she say? She said, Emma smiled at the city. Emmy, I dreamed about you last night. You were standing somewhere very high up and you were laughing, and whatever you were looking at was making you look the way you looked at 8 years old when you first learned to ride that bicycle. Like the whole world just opened up. She paused. She said, That look on your face. I've been waiting to see it again. Taeyun was quiet for a moment beside her. Your grandmother, he said. Sounds like someone I would very much like to meet. Emma looked at him, at the sincerity in his face, complete and unperformed. She would love you, Emma said. She'd see right through all this. She gestured at him, the suit, the composure, the whole precisely constructed exterior. To the person underneath, and she would love that person completely. And who, he said quietly, is the person underneath? Emma looked at him for a long moment, at the man who had appeared beside her in a hotel hallway and been, every day since, exactly and precisely the right thing. Someone good, she said simply. Someone trying to build things that last. He looked at her. The Seoul night moved around them. Below, the city breathed and hummed and went on being magnificent. Emma, yes. Can I tell you something without you deflecting it? I don't deflect things. You deflect compliments with humor at a rate of approximately 90%. She stopped. That's accurate. So let me say this and just... His voice dropped, quieter than she'd ever heard it. Let me say it. He turned to face her fully. I did not expect you. I came to that gala that night in a marriage that had been empty for 3 years and a life that was correct in every technical detail and deeply, specifically lonely in every way that mattered. And then you were there. And nothing about you was what I expected and everything about you was. He searched briefly for the word, this man who was always precise, and the search itself told her more than the word would. Necessary. Emma's chest did something enormous. You came into my life on the worst night of my year, he said, and it became the best night of my year. I find you remarkable, and I don't want to be careful about saying that anymore. Emma looked at him. This man her grandmother hadn't met yet but had already seen in a dream. This man who kept precise time and bought her rose gold jewelry and said let her see what she lost with the quiet satisfaction of someone avenging something they valued. The right love feels like a door opening into a room that was always yours. She reached out and took his hand. Not waiting, not performing, just taking it the way you take something that belongs to you. Taeyun, she said. Emma, I'm going to call my grandmother tomorrow and tell her the dream was right. He looked at her. The almost smile was the full smile. The one that rearranged his whole face. And what will you tell her I am? Emma tilted her head, considered him. A door, she said. Opening. He raised her hand, pressed his lips to her knuckles, warm and deliberate and entirely sure. Then I'll do my best, he said quietly. To always open to the right things. Seoul burned below them. The night held them. And Emma Brooks, who had built everything with her own hands, who had her grandfather's backbone and her grandmother's wisdom and her own extraordinary fire, smiled at the man beside her and understood that she had not lost something that night at the Meridian Grand. She had found something, the something she'd been building her whole life toward. If the story wrecked you in the best way, drop every comment you have. Tell me the moment you lost it. Tell me where you're watching from. Share this with every woman who needs to remember that being treated right is not a fantasy. It is a requirement. Subscribe because I have more stories coming and every single one is made with this much love. Now go call your grandmother. She misses you.